guys, this is Comic Uno, and today I'm doing Comic Uno episode 288, and this is a show where I review all the comics I read this week in one show. We go least favorite to best pick of the week, so let's get started. This week I had a pretty normal amount of books, which is 15, and number 15 for me this week. Sad to see it this low, but it's kind of been low for a while, and that is Batman issue 70. Actually hasn't been like worst pick of the week in a while, but it's been like second to third worst pick of the week for many weeks. But yeah, have not been liking this Nightmare arc at all. And this one just kind of goes through the motions once again, where we get to see Batman fighting his villains, fighting his way out of the Nightmare, saying, "Hey, I am the Nightmare," with some very poetic dialogue as we go through. But yeah, just for me, very slow burn here between Bane and Batman, and it's just not really getting me excited for this Bane versus Batman war. The only thing I liked is that, okay, it looks like the Bat family's gonna verse the villains that Bane is teaming up with. So I'm like, alright, that could kind of be interesting, because I'm interested to see the action that will be the war, and then we might get to see other characters like Barbara and Dick and, you know, the rest of the Bat family, and something new for this title. So that I'm interested in, but that was a line in this one issue. Everything else, he's just kind of punching villains, and again, same poetry throughout, and I'm just not really liking the vibe of this book as of right now. But as always, the artwork is really good for this book, so which is why I can't put it too low in the rating. I will give this 2.5 stars overall. So I'm going to give this 2.5, like I said. Alright, moving on to number 14. I'm going to take a sip of water already, only the beginning of the show. Alright, number 14 for me is War of the Realms, Strike Force, The Dark Elf Realm. These titles are very long. I've been trying to get some of the miniseries and some of the tie-ins, but not all of them. And honestly, most of the miniseries I haven't been really liking, even though I think War of the Realms is one of the best Marvel events in recent years. I've been truly enjoying it, and I really don't like Marvel events usually, so it's really cool to see kind of this character-driven, but still action-driven, and oh my god moments-driven narrative with the beautiful artwork and great creative team. But anyways, the actual tie-ins, I don't think they're necessary. I think there really is enough meat in the main story that none of these tie-ins or miniseries are needed, which usually happens with these events, but I just haven't been able to latch on to any of the miniseries this time around. But some of the tie-ins are interesting, which we will talk about some of the tie-ins this week. But yeah, War of the Realms, Strike Force, The Dark Elf Realm gets 2.5 stars. I did enjoy the kind of fight that these heroes had to go through with Thor's mom. I thought that was cool, but also didn't make any sense because they're in a war and they really spent all that time saying, "Are you guys the warriors I need? Fight me!" It's like, it's a cool story beat, but it doesn't quite make sense to actually happen. So, and that's most of the issue, and I don't even think this miniseries continuing, so I think it's just a one-shot. It's actually $4.99 too, I didn't even notice that. So, it was a double-sized issue. It didn't feel like that at all. So, yeah, giving this 2.5 stars. Alright, that was number 14. Moving on to number 13, which is Savage Avengers, issue 1, which I did an in-depth review on, so I won't talk too much about it, but just really didn't hook me. Most of the team wasn't really here. It was Dr. Voodoo, Punisher, and Wolverine, so we didn't have, and I guess Conan too, so we didn't have Venom or Elektra, and Dr. Voodoo was not in it that much. It was towards the end. It really was a Conan and Wolverine issue, and I've never really been into Conan at all. I've never read a Conan book in my life. So I'm like, alright, that's interesting, I guess, and they just kind of have fight for no reason, and that just totally took me out of the book. So probably not going to get the rest. I did pick this up because of Elektra, but I don't know if I really want to wait for her just to show up in the series, because who knows how long it'll take. So, overall, going to give this 3 stars. Go check out my overall review for a bit more information on that. But moving on to number 12, which is Outcast, issue 41. A bit better than where the series was, and gladly, because this book is ending soon, so it's nice to have it a little better here. But yeah, Outcast, for me, I enjoyed the smaller moments here where we get to see this kind of group therapy of people that have had this demon within them. And obviously there's a lot of main characters of our book that has had it. Our Kyle's sister, his wife, and then we get to see a couple other people as well. So I thought that was cool. And then one of the characters mentioning that she liked it, so I'm interested to see where that story goes. And then finally, kind of this big battle is starting, and it's called the Merge, which I honestly did not know until now. And yeah, the Merge is happening, and it's all these like people fighting against each other, demon creatures. So we'll see where that ends up going. And I did like how the Outcast reacted to it, and how we have these other outcasts, it looks like, too. We have some betrayal, very Walking Dead-esque. But yeah, I thought this was a lot better of an issue because it focused on the main characters and explained the plot a little bit more, which hasn't been explained as much as I wish it was. So I'm going to give this 3 stars. Artwork, as always, is so freaking phenomenal. I love this style here. It's really what has latched me and hooked me and made me stay onto this series is because of the art. So yeah, I'm going to give that 3 stars, and that is number 12. Alright, moving on to number 11. I also did an in-depth review for this. I won't talk too much about it. But as DCeased, issue 1. This is DC's kind of Marvel Zombies in a way, and I was really excited for this book because I'm a huge Tom Taylor fan, but also, like, a couple of weeks ago and throughout the weeks, I've been hearing some, like, awesome stuff and a lot of hype saying, oh my god, this is, like, the best comic of the year, and I read it, and I'm just like, it was okay. I just didn't really latch me. I think there's a lot of exposition here just to kind of explain the way why the zombies are happening. And then really it's only in the last few pages I feel like anything really happens, and nothing was too mind-blowing besides, alright, they're zombies now. And Batman might be a zombie. Cool, I guess. It's just so hard because DC is already had a series that's kind of zombie-like, but, you know, obviously one of the best DC stories ever, Blackest Night. So how do you, like, combat that? And do you really want to? But it's hard not to compare the two. But we'll see where the rest of it goes. I'll definitely pick it up. Also feel like the artwork isn't as strong as what we usually get with the partnership with Tom Taylor. It's not bad, obviously, but I thought there was some moments that facial expressions could be better, like Superman's face over there. So I thought it could have been a little better. But yeah, it's DCeased issue 1 is 3 stars for me. Alright, moving on to number 10, and that is The Amazing Spider-Man issue 20.HU, which is the last issue of this event. So we have issue 21 and 22 left for the hunt. And this one we get to learn a little bit more about Vulture's motives, which is cool, I guess. I mean, I'm not a huge Vulture fan. I mean, I guess he's a cool villain, but I never really had to dig deep into him, you know? He's not one of my favorite Spider-Man villains. But I guess his motives were interesting, and how they're kind of playing with his strings in a way, and he got a new costume, which was interesting. But really, I think it was kind of a skippable issue. It just, like, after you read the Given issues, like, how do you top that? And I actually really like the Black Cat issue as well. So yeah, overall, I gave that one 3.5 stars. Like I said, not bad. I think there's some interesting parts. The costume was cool. You get a little backstory of those creatures. And also his inner monologue was interesting enough, seeing that he was kind of a loser, and he wants to be a better person, and not a good person, but a better villain, I'll say. He wants to be a better villain. So, and the artwork I thought was better in this issue than, honestly, the main series with Ramos. So, like I said, giving that 3.5 stars. Alright, moving on. Moving on to number 9, which is Deathstroke issue 43. I did it in Sharpie marker this time. Usually I write in regular pen. But yeah, much better issue than what we've been getting with this series. And mostly because I think it is more of a Teen Titans issue. But I also like seeing the nicer side of Deathstroke. Where he does, I mean, he's not a nice person. But it was interesting to see his interaction between him and Damian. Where he like gets hurt and he gives him something. So I thought that was interesting. And then also saying, like, did you do the right or wrong thing, and obviously he does it for his own alternative motives, but yeah. And I also liked the ending with Amico shooting Deathstroke in the eye, so where that is gonna go. And we also get a little bit more about the prisoners, that they're not all bad, and then, you know, Damian kind of feels guilty about what he did. So yeah, overall giving this 3.5 stars. Artwork is really solid. I thought we got some interesting character dynamics between Deathstroke and Damian. Alright, moving on to number 8. And number 8 is DC Year of the Villain, issue 1, which I got for free at my comic book store and only 25 cents, and, you know, I'm sure other stores, or you probably got it for free as well. It's kind of like their free comic book day book. It's weird that they do it on the Wednesday instead of free comic book day. But yeah, I also did an in-depth review on this. I won't go too much into detail, but I thought the Leviathan story was the best. I really liked what they did with Batgirl there, and kind of that this villain goes into her head, and I'm curious to see if that's going to be the story. That's not going to be really this all-out war of fighting, but really it's about, like, how some of these heroes, like Batgirl, you know, who has a really good moral compass, could be swayed. So I'm interested to see if that's going to be the story. And also, the artwork was gorgeous. The artwork was good for all the stories, which I was also really impressed with. The first story was interesting with Lex. I thought that was a cool setup, but it took a while to get there. And then the last story, I really wasn't interested in the Source Wall and Batman Who Laughs, because A, I haven't been reading Batman Who Laughs, and B, I haven't been reading Justice League. And I just didn't really like those series. I haven't been loving what Snyder's been doing recently, so yeah, that's the one story I was a little blah on. But Francis Manapul's artwork kind of made up for it. So, yeah, overall, giving this one 3.5 stars. It's free, and you definitely get some good quality stories for a free book. Alright, moving on to number 7, and that is... Number 7 is War of the Realms, issue 3. Like I said, I've been really enjoying this series. I mentioned that before with the miniseries stuff. And there's some interesting stuff. I do think this is a slower issue than last issue. I really liked issue 2. But this one, it's kind of setting up the pieces of where our heroes are in the war. It's like, alright, this is where Captain America is. He's trying to look for Thor. This is what Thor's mom's doing. This is what Daredevil is doing as he picks up the sword and can see everything. So that was cool. But yeah, the stuff I enjoyed the most, definitely the cliffhanger where Thor comes back and he like defeats all these giants. He's like, I'm back. He doesn't even have an arm. So that was a cool moment. And also the artwork is just so good for this book. I love how cinematic it is. And just the character interactions in general, that these heroes that usually don't deal with these realm-like storylines or Asgardian storylines are thrown into the mix of it. And that feels like a war book. It truly feels like a character-driven war book. So I've really enjoyed that aspect. So I think there's a nice balance of story and action that most events stories I think kind of forget. I think it's really paced well. So overall, giving this 3.5 stars. Again, not my favorite issue of the event, but still really making this a solid event. Alright, moving on to number 6. Which is Marvel Team Up, Spider-Man and Miss Marvel issue 2, which was much better this issue than last, where it was, you had to flip the book everywhere to read it. I love this cover, too, where they switch costumes. It's just a fun read. If you're looking for something just, you know, to shut your mind off and just have fun, read about Peter Parker and Miss Marvel switching bodies. It's cool. You get to see them live each other's lives and get used to it, see their struggles. And the artwork is really clean and cartoony and, yeah, really expressive. So I enjoyed it. I thought it was a really solid issue. It still also dealt with some great continuity stuff, especially on Spider-Man's side, with obviously the brain switching stuff already. So yeah, overall, gonna give this one 4 stars. If you're looking for a fun book, definitely go check that one out. And if you're a fan of both characters like I am. Which I think, if you like Peter, you'd like Kamala. And if you like Kamala, you'd like Peter. They definitely have the same vibe as a hero. So I think that's 2 great characters to team up. Which is why I do like both characters a lot. Alright, moving on to number 5. Which hasn't been in my top 5, I think, at all. But I enjoyed this issue. And that is Meet the Skrulls, issue 4. I thought this was a really solid issue and really got to the heart of these characters where, especially the mother realizes, oh man, I made my kids turn into me and that's not a good thing. Where she sees her daughter kill someone and she regrets that now. And you get to see that the children are kind of becoming a bit too cold stoned, as now we find out the mission that they've had is actually to save their other kid, which is really interesting. And he goes, the whole time you thought she died and that's what they were mourning, but really they're just trying to get their kid, and that's why they've been doing all this stuff. So I thought it was a really solid issue, probably the most emotional issue, and probably the most concise issue. A lot of times I felt really jumpy because, alright, this is what the daughter is doing, that's what the other daughter is doing. This time they're all together as a family unit, and it made things a lot cleaner for me. So Meet the Skrulls issue 4 gets 4 stars, and that is number 5. Alright, moving on to number 4. Number 4 for me is War of the Realms Champions issue 5. Probably the best issue of this series thus far, and definitely one of my favorite War of the Realm tie-ins. I think it really has a good emotional punch, especially that opener with Miles Morales, where we get to see Miles has been really struggling with what happened with this girl, because he had that spell with Mephisto, and he's been regretting it, and he actually gets to talk to the mom without saying, hey, there was a spell, but the mom says, hey, it wasn't your fault, and she embraces what her daughter loved. Even when she wasn't alive, she couldn't embrace it. So I thought that was really interesting. It says, hey, go save the day and save people you can now. So I thought that was a really awesome way to open this, especially a war type book where you have to try to save everybody and these innocent people. Sadly, we don't get to see Miles get into the battle after that, though, so that's the only nitpick. But then you have another really emotional moment with Miss Marvel as leader, where she's like, all my friends, first of all my teammates are gone. That's hurting this team, all my core teammates, and then all my friends are dealing with a lot of stuff, which is the reason why they're gone. So Miss Marvel's really having a lot of struggles as leader, but surprisingly enough, the person who helps is actually Cyclops, who remembers being a champion in the most interesting way, and I thought the continuity of it all made a lot of sense. So I really liked it. I love the moment that they have between each other where Kamala does realize, oh, I do have a friend. And I usually don't like Cyclops because he's been so out of character for such a long time, but I really like this Cyclops and that he came back for his team, and even said that by the end. Also really like the artwork. There's a nice balance of lightness and dark here. I enjoyed that as well. So I thought this was a really solid issue. I'm giving it 4 stars. Again, probably the best Champions issue I've read in a while. So that one was really good, and if you're looking for a good emotional War of the Realms tie-in, definitely go check that out. Alright, moving on to number 3. Alright. I don't know why I'm so thirsty. Alright. Number 3 is Young Justice issue 5. I love this cover. I've been super excited for this because if you guys don't know, I'm a huge Stephanie Brown fan and also a huge Chris Anka fan. So it kind of met both worlds here, where Chris Anka's doing the artwork and Stephanie Brown is very much featured in this issue as we get to see the Tim Drake issue. What was Tim up to before the Young Justice team? And I will say the thing I actually didn't like of this issue was the actual main story, which wasn't much of the issue, but I'm like, go back to Steph, go back to Tim. I just don't really like their chemistry that much, but I do like what they're fighting because it does connect with what Tim and Stephanie is doing. It has to do with this person kind of breaking reality, so that made sense. Hopefully they get answers about the whole DC universe. That'd be interesting. But yeah, I love the way Brian Michael Bendis wrote Tim and Steph. I thought they had a great dynamic. I love Stephanie in this issue. Zatanna's falling from the sky and she's just calling her hot. I'm like, yeah, that's Stephanie. That's awesome. And then just like their banter with each other and what they remember, where they both remember they were Robin and they talk about it. And also Tim obviously remembering the Young Justice days and even saying, hey, you were also there at the end. And then, Stephanie wondering, am I Batgirl? Am I Spoiler? What am I? Because it's really both of them having these memories of the past from Detective Comics and then saying, hey, what do we do with this? And that's kind of been their journey. And now they do separate, but not be like, hey, I hate you because we can't be together. But they realize they both have different missions. Tim has to go find Connor, his best friend. And then Stephanie has to deal with stuff with her dad, which made sense. I know we haven't really dealt with her dad in a while, but I'm like, okay, I could deal with that excuse. And also that'd be an awesome story if we get to see it. But yeah, I love their story a lot. I really thought that Brian Michael Bendis hit their voices over the head and hit their relationship over the head really well. And then Chris Anka's artwork was so good. I really liked their connection with each other overall. So yeah, I enjoyed this issue a lot. I mean, look at this. Look at this double page spread. As a Young Justice fan, I'm like, yes, we're back. We're back here. But then we go to the new team. I'm like, I don't really need Jenny Hex and Teen Lantern that much. But yeah, giving this 4.5 stars. Definitely the best Young Justice issue I've read thus far. Alright, moving on to number 2. This I will need another sip of water for because I have a lot to say in a great way. Alright, number 2 is Paper Girls issue 28, which I actually think is I don't know, it feels like a longer issue. I don't think it actually is, but for some reason this issue feels a little thicker. But anyways, Paper Girls, I love this issue because I feel like if any issue is a thesis of Paper Girls, it's this one right here. It really states what this book's about. And I think there's some misconception about Paper Girls because I definitely seen like a lot of people, and I definitely shout out to my frontline line friends who have a different view on Paper Girls, where they definitely want more from like this mystery aspect. And I think that it's more than the mystery, and I think that honestly we've gotten answers from the mystery of what this is all about and why time travel is happening. But it really is the themes, the science and the time travel is all just this allegory for what the story is actually about, is these kids are being forced to grow up, just like any 12-year-old is going into the adult world and kind of figuring out who they are. That's always what this whole time travel thing was about, and what the story was about. So what really hits the nail over the head in this issue is the old-timers, when Tiffany kind of realizes her older self is the villain as well. And she has this brilliant line where she says, I guess we all grow up to be old-timers. And really, that's what they're fighting against, is that, oh, I don't want to be an adult. And there's another line by one of the teenagers who says, let me see if I can find it. Yeah, as long as there have been young people, there have always been older ones forcing us to fight their battles. And that's also just a really interesting statement, because that's also been what this series is about, is that they're fighting this battle that they don't know about. And I think you could really interpret that in different ways when you're just thrusted into this adult world and you're like, what are we doing? Why does this world suck so much? And you realize it wasn't because of you, it was because of everybody in the past who's kind of done this. So I think that's a really interesting concept, and I think that's what the whole chaos has always been about. The time travel aspect is that these kids are thrusted into something they don't know, because that's what adulthood is. It's the unknown. So there's so many lines here, like I said, that feels like a huge thesis statement on what this book's about, is that you can't be, a kid forever, and what does it mean to become an adult, especially in this really unique age of like 12 to 13, where you're still a kid, but you're getting into adulthood. So I think it's such an I love this series, but I think it's a really interesting concept, and they play with it really well. Now, another thing I really liked about this issue, I didn't even get to talk about, is the structure. So if you realize by the first page, we get to see Tiffany, Mac, KJ, and Erin just all in this one panel, and they say, or one page, and they say, why are we here? And which is always an interesting question. How existentialist of you guys. And then we get to realize that their stories are played out with each panel, and it kind of feels like a Sunday morning comic strip. And if you guys remember, the newspaper strips are a very important element to Paper Girls. But then we get some unique twists to it as well, as the reality starting to break. It breaks into the panel. So just a brilliant panel work as well, and creativity to tell this story. Now, I will say the slight negative is that the way to follow the story is just like, oh, do I read Erin's first? Do I just read it all down? Do I read here and here? So that's the one confusing part, but I think it all makes sense, and honestly, after you read it, you realize you can read it whichever way you like. But yeah, overall, really enjoyed this issue a lot, and I think if you are a person reading Paper Girls understanding this is more about theme, you will really enjoy the series overall, because that's what the series is about. So, Paper Girls issue 28 gets 4.5 stars, and that is number 2. Alright, moving on to number 1, which is Spider-Gwen Ghost Spider issue 8. I'm having a blast with this series, and this issue doesn't disappoint, where we get to see Gwen once again kind of inching up of, oh my god, my powers are kind of haywire, I don't know what to do. And we actually get to see her lose control a bit here again when she's fighting just these regular, goons, and her venom comes out a bit, and she even says by the end of the battle, she says, why is this so hard? Why is it so hard to control? Why is it so hard to be a hero in Gwen? And then what I loved is how everything really comes to a head by the end of the issue, where the villains are definitely starting to realize something's wrong with Gwen. They see these little spiders that Gwen doesn't even know why the spiders are popping up, and why she can't control herself, because it's also an allegory of she just can't control her life right now. And then by the end of the issue, she's ready. She's gonna rock out. They have their concert. She's actually in time. Which, let me talk about, actually, the artwork as well. I freaking love the character designs, that, like, punk rock, spider, Venom outfit. I thought that was so cool. But yeah, and then by the end, we get to see Gwen. She's rocking out. She still has the headache, though. And guess what? We have a bomb on top of the stage. And one thing that MJ's been really upset about is, like, Gwen, like, do you want the spotlight? What's going on? Like, I think, obviously she's jealous that she's Spider-Gwen, but she also is, like, jealous that she doesn't have her friend, and also she's, like, romantically seems interested in Gwen, so there's a lot of confusing feelings for MJ of, like, I don't want to lose this person, and she feels like she's losing her over the superpowers and being a superhero, and I guess the stardom in some ways too. So I think she's jealous, but also just really upset that she's kind of losing that connection with her friend. So she has having this kind of forcing fighting where she's like, oh my god, Gwen, get out of here, but she doesn't feel that way. And I think that's such an interesting psychological story between MJ and Gwen that's hopefully developed even more. But yeah, so the ending, we get to see that happen, and you get to see literally, physically, their lives meeting together, Gwen and Spider-Woman, where an event with Spider-Woman happens, and this might really hurt people. It might hurt Gwen's friends, but also the people in the audience. So how's Gwen going to react to this? And did people die in the end? It looks like it was a pretty brutal scene here. Did people die because of her, and is that why there's going to be no more Spider-Gwen? So yeah, really interesting issue. I really enjoyed it, and I've been loving this run so far, and how character-driven it has been, and how it's been able to really balance the Spider-Gwen and Gwen stuff really well. So yeah, overall giving this 4.5 stars. Artwork is so good as well. Like I said, I love seeing that Gwen part. I love seeing the little costume design of her rock outfit. So some really great artwork as well. So hopefully you guys enjoyed. This is Comic Let me know in the comments below, what was your worst pick of the week, your least favorite, and your favorite books of the week. Also, go check out my Facebook page and Twitter, and my comic books like Father Like Daughter, and They Call Her Dancer. And also go check out every Tuesday is Frontline Live, which is at 10 p.m. Eastern Time on Comic Frontline, where we discuss our favorite comics and comic book news. So be sure to check that out as well. Hopefully you guys enjoyed. Bye.